Holly Carter. I'm with Legislative Council and I draft bills on behalf of your elected officials.
Recording this? Okay, because the other members, it's not being streamed though, right?
It is being streamed.
Okay, very good. Well, let me officially open this Urban Affairs meeting, unless the alums, please stay if you want to. If not, we can go next door. But of course I can do that. But yeah, if you want to hear us in action, you can stay, and I would love for you to stay. Okay. Excuse me? Oh, no, we're not on the legislative floor. However, over in the House, they are on the floor. So if you go to the fourth floor and sit in the gallery of the House side, but I hope to see all of you when we don't start till 1 o'clock, and I'm going to introduce you. And we might have some food by then, I think. Are we having food? Did we order food? Uh-oh. We gonna, oh my goodness. So I'm gonna have to call and order some food. Okay. I'll do that. Yes, ma'am. Maybe the only thing you can order at the last minute is pizza. Everybody eat pizza? Okay, we'll order that. But anyway, that will come a little bit later too when I finish this meeting. But thank you, Morris Brown College. I'll be back with you soon. Thank you. Okay. I've already made the introduction of why we're here today. Mm-hmm. And we see Ms. Dory Henry. You want to come up first and sit right there for us and give your statement?
You want me to testify?
Okay. I will be back. Okay. Like, you're welcome to stay now. But I understand. Thank you. Say your name, please, for the record.
Dory Henry.
Okay. All right.
You gonna ask me a question so I can start, or what do you want me to do?
But before you do we have a minister in the house? Yes. Would you come in and open us up with prayer? Come up to the mic for me. That one.
May we bow our heads.
Heavenly Father, we praise your holy and righteous name, for you and Jesus alone are worthy to be praised. We thank you for this day. We will rejoice and be glad in it. We will find your will for us in it, and we will be a blessing to many. Please forgive us for our sins and fill us with your Holy Spirit, that we will do greater works like Jesus. And Father, help us to be humble and to pray and to seek your face and to turn from our wicked ways, that you will hear from heaven and heal our land. Thank you for this opportunity to be in this committee, asking and dealing with the needs of our community. Bless us and help us to open our minds and hearts to do the right thing for the right people. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Praise God. Thank you very much, everyone, for being here. We are officially opening the meeting of Urban Affairs Committee. And Sonia Halper, David Lucas, Emmanuel Jones, Nikki Merritt, and Senator Rahman are all members of this committee. And 3 of them are in the building right now, and they're going to come back. 4 are in the building. They will join us as we continue. But we're being streamed, and it's being recorded, so everyone will get a chance to hear the comments that we have to make today. So I called on you, Ms. Henry, because you have been with me through the former meetings that we've had, and you have a personal testimony that you want to make, because when you first started out, you said you didn't realize the problems that others, so many have in this state with this, but you don't have to tell us all your personal business.
I will.
But you can give us, an overview.
I'll give you a high-level overview, and I'm happy to be able to participate, Senator James, and thank you. And I did share this with her this morning, that I'm living proof and living witness of the flaws in the system. So a couple of years ago, I entered into a home ownership lease purchase program with a company that claims we buy the house, we'll give you 3 years to purchase it from us. You're the homeowner, but you're not a homeowner, you're a renter, just like everybody else. It's a lease agreement. Last year, due to COVID and different situations, Senator James, the state of Georgia doesn't pay me. Senator James pays me a stipend out of her pocket, and because I am self-employed, I do have other contracts with other clients, and sometimes they renew and sometimes they don't. And in the middle of COVID, I had COVID, and so one of the jobs that I had to resign from because I was sick. So that impacted my income. And I was late making my rent payment. My May payment, I paid it on June 7th, and I remember the date specifically because I got a notification for eviction on June 9th from that company saying that I failed to pay my rent.
2 days.
No, it was 37 days late.
Okay.
Prior to that, I tried to contact somebody, and I do have email documentation. Who do I contact? How can you help me? Hey, I've lost my job, my income's being impacted, and other type of loan situations. You can usually put that payment on the back of the loan. Is that an option? And in this particular program, a percentage of the lease payment was going supposedly to a savings account for me. So at the time when I decided to buy the home, I would get that money back. And additionally, I gave them just about $10,000 to move in. So you got a ton of my money. And so I said, is there any way, or can we take some money out of the savings account to cover that payment? And they told me no. They weren't willing to help me. And by the time I got a hold of somebody, she said, now your account's in litigation. We can't even talk to you. So I had to hire an attorney. And he said, just keep making your rent payments. And so I did that. In September, I started getting payments back from them. They said, oh, by the way, our client doesn't want your money anymore. Is not accepting your money. If the client's not accepting your money, I thought they're supposed to give it back to you immediately. I don't know any place where they hold onto your money for 4 months and then say, oh, by the way, we want you gone. So I've been fighting with them this whole time. Back in November, I got a notification and said, we want you to pay the rent. So you didn't give me my money back. We want you to pay your lease now into the court registry. And if you don't pay it by a certain date, the first of the month, then we're going to get a writ of possession on you. I paid it November, paid it December, January. I was a little bit late, so I called and had my attorney call them, and I said, I'm going to be late making the payment. Can you let them know I still need to make a payment? They said, we don't want your money. We refuse it. We want you gone. They got a writ of possession that month. Not willing to negotiate, not anything. We want you gone. We want you out of our property. Yesterday, the marshal showed up at my house. And so on and so. That's what I spent my day doing. Packing my stuff and moving at the end of this. I'm saying all that to say, when you get in that type of situation, the first thing first of all, you can't realize, oh my God, how did I get here? And then people are embarrassed. You don't want to ask for help because we're all adults. We should be able to handle our business, but sometimes you need help from people and you got to reach out to your resources. I get calls, like I just said to you, every single day from people saying, hey, Senator James, I know she's got these bills. We've got to do something about this issue. Had another lady, she said I was 3 days late on my rent and they put a eviction. They got a writ of possession against me and now I got to move. What that is doing to our homeless population? Everybody might not have money in the bank so they could move all over again or at the drop of a dime. So it costs money to move. You know, you got to move your things in or you got to move your things out. You're paying a first deposit, last deposit, first month's rent. That's expensive. And so it looks like corporations are buying properties, they're paying cash for them. And they're renting them out and they're leasing them at an exorbitant amount. And if you miss a payment or if you're late, they start the eviction, they put you out.
They make up their rules.
They make their rules up as they go on.
Even though it was not in your
At all.
Lease agreement.
They haven't made not one repair on that property. The air conditioner went out 3 times. I paid for it out of my pocket because when I notified them, they said, oh, somebody get back to you within a week. And it's 2 weeks, and the air conditioner was out, and it's like 89 degrees inside my house. And nobody can live like that. So I had to pay somebody out of my pocket. Still never got my money back. When I initially moved in, the sink fell in. I was like, oh my God, how does that happen? So you can't talk to anybody. I sent the request. About a week and a half later, somebody contacted me back. Well, you can't live without a sink, your kitchen sink, and there's no way possible. So.
And we're talking about an exclusive
Absolutely.
area of town.
An exclusive area of town. And it's not the
beautiful
area
home.
of town,
Lakeshore
it's
Down
the
area.
corporations who are, I just think it's predatory in my mind, who are treating people like cattle. So Senator James has been so gracious and kind to take up this issue. And people out there know it, so that's why they're contacting her, because she's willing to address it. And I told her I would give my testimony, I'll say it to anybody who's listening, that something has to change. If we don't get back to where people are important to us, it's gonna be a problem.
Margie, put his name down.
So
Put his name
I'm willing to take any questions. Senator James, do you have any
Okay.
questions for me?
No, I would like to, first of all, say I'm so sorry. Secondly, and one of our members have just come in, and he didn't hear, we were talking about problems with rent and leases, and we're going to talk about HOAs briefly as well. And
Oh, there's one more thing I wanted to add.
yeah, Dory has given a personal testimony of a catastrophe that has happened to her. And it's the same thing, before you say that Nikki Randall, our member, has come to the well and talked on, and she has also developing legislation for it, because unfortunately, it didn't just happen to you too.
Right, absolutely.
It's happening.
It's happening as
And
we speak.
she gave the statistics and everything, but she's in another meeting, so I'll make sure that we can share your information with her.
Yeah, absolutely, I'm happy to do it. So there's another thing. So remember, flashback to May of last year, I still have an active court case. So yesterday, as Senator James was so gracious, we call them magistrate judges and all kinds of stuff. And I said, I don't even have a court date. So nobody's even notified me. So when is that going to happen? 2 or 3 years from now? They said, oh, no, you're on the docket. For when? May. So still, to me, that's unconscionable for an issue a year old that we just now getting to.
And
I mean,
they
I just don't
already
even
come in
understand.
and evict you.
Right, and I don't even understand how that's okay. Things have to make sense to me. That doesn't make any sense.
Unfortunately, in this law,
Absolutely.
fair is not fair.
Well,
What should be fair is not fair. Unfortunately.
and I know the law is the law, and it's subject to interpretation, but there's some things to me, as I was calling around trying to get some relief, one attorney told me, he said, every law is, what did he say? Is makeable. So what he was saying, if there's a law that says we can evict you on this date, he said there's a counter law, again, that can counteract that. Because nothing is holistic and pure, is what he's telling me. I don't know if Nathan's forehead is wrinkled, but that's what he was saying. Every law has something that can counteract it. So,
All right.
having said that, I'm thinking there has to be something that can be done. Not just for me, but for all the other Dory Henrys in the world. What if you're not like me? What if you don't have a Senator James at your resource? At your disposal, that I can call you any day, time of the day or night. What about those people?
Thank you. Again, I'm very sorry about it. We are going to look into this and add this to the things that we've already received from so many people all over the state. This is not just an issue that one or two of us have. We've heard from so many people. In fact, Senator, the rent control people have emerged on this whole Capitol so many times. They've been over at all the city council meetings in Atlanta, and they've been coming over here and they've been talking to all of us, sending us emails. So this is an issue that should have some priority, that we need to make sure that we do something about it. So do you have any questions?
No, it's not a question, just a comment. I don't think this is an issue only in the city of Atlanta. It's all over Georgia, all over the state. Obviously, we have a serious issue in this country, basically in a lot of different places. So there's definitely some issues that we need to, legislators need to listen and come up with some kind of solution to help.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
appreciate it. Thank you, I'm sorry
Thank you.
we being late, but
Okay, well, Sonia's gonna come back too, so it'll be just us sitting in here, but the others are listening to it, and it is streaming. So thank you very much
You're
for your
welcome.
comments.
Absolutely.
We're
And
gonna
I'm
put
gonna
you
be
back
like I'm gonna be like Miss Margie. I'm gonna have on "Stop Evictions Now" T-shirt, little sign. But yes, something has to change.
It's sad that we have to even find a way to smile about this. This is no
Right.
smiling matter
Absolutely.
when it happens to you. So, I mean, that's why we're having these meetings, so that we can look at what we need to do for reforming rent and rent control. I think we have one of our Mr. Mullins going to come up and tell us about what
Thank you, Senator
he
James.
has been talking about, and it falls into your category.
I just
So-
want to say thank you for your leadership and thank you for the opportunity to share.
Okay, thank
Appreciate
you
it.
very much. Y'all want to both come up together? You want to come up first, Margie? Okay. So, Miss Margie McLeod. Thank you very much. You want to? I see your T-shirt. Need rent control. I don't know if everyone understands why the prices continue to go up and nobody has stopped. So you go ahead and tell us. I know that you've been an advocate and you own your house, but you've been an advocate to help so many of a lot of the Atlanta public schools, bus drivers
School
and
bus
cafeteria
drivers,
workers
teachers,
and teachers have
yes.
come, with you, and you're a veteran too. And so you have brought all of the groups that you're a part of to speak with me and others about this. So can you briefly tell us? We're going to give you about 3 minutes.
Good afternoon, everybody. I took one uniform off and put it on another one. I was in the military for 20 years in one day. And I wear this proudly because when people see this shirt, you're giving me hope. You're giving me hope. Rent is going so high, $400, all the way up to $1,200. This is everywhere. This is also Midtown. A guy, I would say he was a Caucasian, he said, my rent went up to $1,000. It's not about color. It's about, if you don't have, like what my saying is, if you're not green, you don't fit in. And it have to stop. We could do this. It's not about landlords. I'm not against landlords, but how can you go up 100%, 300% on rent? It affect everybody. It affect your family. It affect my family. Seniors getting put out as senior citizens for $36 because they can't afford it. People is being displaced. Schools is closing down because guess what? Families don't have nowhere to go. What is the solution? We have to do this. Republic, we got to work together because it's affecting your home also. Not just my home, your home. You got grandkids, okay? I hear people telling me, my daughter, my son, we can't afford the rent out here. It's too high. You got mothers as prostitute. You won't believe it or not? Because they cannot pay the rent. You got students also. So what are we going to do? That's why I'm here. I'm not going nowhere. And you keep saying it can't be done. We got to change it. Every other state is changing it. Why Georgia can't change it? Ray Charles, Georgia on my mind. That's what we need to do. And I'm not giving up. Because guess what? You are hurting also. You landlords, the development buying. How are you going to let somebody come in here and buy up a whole block? If you overseas, I've been in Europe, they wouldn't let you do that. The Chinese is in here. And I just left yesterday from Housing Authority. The people that is in the housing, they pushing them up. They go up on the rent. Oh, yeah, tenant rights. Okay, that's good, you got it. But guess what the landlords say? We're going to go up the rent. If we got to fix anything, and you don't know that they can't afford it, when you know minimum wages are $5.15, you got people here is leaving because they can't afford the rent. And they work for y'all. They right here, and the governor. They can't. My mailman say he leaving also, cause guess what? He can't afford the rent. So what are y'all gonna do? You gonna say what you can't not do? You can. Why every other state could do it and we can't do it? Who's in their pocket? You know what they say? We know. We tell them what to do. That's what the developments is saying. So please. Pass this bill Senate 125. We need it. Change have to be made. So let Georgia be the change. That's what I'm saying. Because the people's crying out there. Homeless is increasing. It's increasing.
I know you're very passionate
I'm sorry,
about
but I have
this.
to tell you. Oh.
And so many of us are. Thank you, Miss Margie. And you got fire in your bones even. So we can understand because we've heard from so many people before you. But please, now we're going to get the history of it, so please come up. Introduce yourself for the record and give us your testimony, please. And thank you very much for coming. Right. I've had an opportunity to talk with you, right, to be on a TV, with you, and you really educated me when I thought that I knew everything about this issue. So please share with us, if you can, something about rent control and where it started and what we can do about it now, what your opinion is.
Thank you, Honorable Senator Donzella James and other committee members. I would like to speak to you today about the situation in Georgia and how we arrived at this point of having the challenges of increased rent. My name is Rodney Mullins. I'm a former military officer, studied at United States Military Academy at West Point, then went on to receive my master's in business and work now helping people in a different way. I help my country in a different way now. I deal with a lot of disabled veterans, a lot of citizens that are struggling now. It's my way of giving back. But I want you to understand how we arrived at this point. At the end of World War II, the veterans were returning, and the Georgia state legislature said this is a challenge because many veterans could not afford to pay their bills. So they implemented rent control. So rent control was a policy in Georgia until 1972. In 1972, the real estate lobby came here. They lobbied the Georgia state legislature, and they were not from here. It was a national real estate lobby. They targeted all the major markets, LA, Miami, New York, Seattle, all the major markets. And they passed legislation to remove the ban on rent control. They lobbied the Georgia state legislature, and they won. In 1972, there was a ban on rent control. So local municipalities, rural counties, as well as urban counties, could not control their rent. What this did to local municipalities, local counties, Macon County, Bartow, wherever you might be, Fulton County, what it did was it handcuffed them because they could do nothing about rising rents. But what it did for investors, it allowed an investor from China, an investor from LA, an investor from New York to control your market. So what that did was that allowed foreign investors or out-of-state investors to take control of this market, which was the design for lifting the ban on rent control. So they were very successful because now the Federal Deposit Insurance Company, FDIC, has stated that Georgia has less than 2% areas that are considered affordable. All across the state, citizens are struggling, particularly our veterans. They cannot find affordable living. And it's not just affordable, it's low income. Because what goes on in some areas, the formula for AMI is computed with conglomeration of several municipalities. So you might have an upper echelon district that's computed in that formula. So someone that's living in a rural county, their average income is combined with someone that makes $95,000 a year. So now all of you understand math, so you have that aggregate number. When you increase that aggregate number, 30% is going to be bigger. Now, if you have a number that's stratified based on census tract, which the way it should be done, then the people that are looking for affordable housing would have a chance. So now they can't even get government programs because the average median income is so high, and if they make just $50 or $25 above the allowable range, they don't receive any assistance with housing. This is a dilemma. The same action and the same rationale that the Georgia State Legislature took after World War II is the same demand that we need now to lift the ban and repeal the ban on rent control. What it would do to rural counties and urban counties. Rural counties would now have control to make a difference. Right now, local municipalities, city councils, county commissioners, they cannot do anything. Georgia is controlled by out-of-state investors. So our children, based on the numbers that I've analyzed for the past several years, Georgia is controlled by out-of-state investors. They are here. They're coming hard. We're being traded on the stock market. Conglomerates of properties here are traded on the New York Stock Exchange. So the Georgia State Legislature has to make a decision. Now, if you look back at the thought pattern of the Georgia State legislators after World War II, they put a ban, they implemented rent control because their population was struggling. They had a major challenge with World War II. Well, we just got out of a challenge too. It's called the pandemic. It's called COVID-19.
Okay.
We are in our Katrina. If we don't lift this ban on rent control and repeal this challenging law, then more and more people will be evicted and they won't have options. So it's not like before where you could just find a cheaper place because you can't control it. If I'm an investor from a different state, I don't care about the children here because I have no connection. If I'm from LA or if I'm from China and I'm trading on your county, which they're in pretty much every county in Georgia, then I have no connection to the heartbeat of the children in this state. Is that what we want? Do we want the children of this state to be controlled by investors that have no love or no connection to this community? That's why I'm here testifying today, because our veterans are challenged. Everyday citizens are challenged. And we will allow people to be evicted. It leads to teenage convictions. Because when you disrupt a home in a rural county and in the city, children lose hope and they go into an uproar. So that's why we are requesting, and that's why I'm here to testify today. I appreciate all of you and the service that you've given our country and our state, but this is a serious issue. We are in an economic pandemic, a housing pandemic, a COVID-19 for housing, because people are living in their cars. We have veterans that are living behind buildings, veterans that come to me and talk to me, fellow veterans that say, Rodney, where can I go? They're looking for rooming houses. Rooming houses are becoming very popular in Georgia. People are living in rooms. And you all are blessed.
And that cost is very exorbitant too. The cost, you pay, what, $100, $200 a week for one room in the bathroom?
We've seen them go as high as $175 to $225. So if a couple is married, Senator James, what we've seen is much more. We have some veterans and some citizens that are paying for a room up to $700 to $900 per month for a room. It's real because they know they can get it, because there's no control on the marketplace. And what I'll tell you, we all love capitalism, but when I studied capitalism in business school, it says make as much profit as possible. It doesn't say make considerations for veterans, make considerations for children when you pursue your money. The values and principles from capitalism has to come from us. Because without any virtue, without any love, capitalism can be extreme. We can be extreme with market investments. It could possibly be, for an apartment, it could be $2,000 one day. In some parts of Georgia, you have for one apartment, one bedroom apartment is $2,300. I promise you it is. So we all love capitalism, but we need some love in that capitalism. We need some virtue. We need principles in that coefficient, in that formula, in one of those variables. And you are that virtue. You are that love. That's my testimony. And I appreciate all of you, and I hope that you will support SB 125, and which is designed to repeal the ban on rent control. Because rent, if we did not take charge of it, or at least free the local municipalities to do something about it, then you will see more evictions. And the last thing I'll tell you, when I talked to several attorney friends of mine, they said, Rodney, let me tell you a secret. A lot of firms are hiring additional lawyers just to handle all of the evictions that they anticipated. Because they anticipate in Georgia in 2023, there could be in some regions 7,000 to 8,000 evictions per month. 7,000 to 8,000. So I appreciate your time. Thank you, Senator James, and any questions I entertain.
Yes, we would like to ask a few questions. First of all, thank you very much for the very informative overview on what has happened and how we got here. But can you tell me, I've been talking to many mayors and city council persons to see what they want to do, and they say we have no control, and even in Atlanta they're saying we have so many vacancies because the rental on condominiums or apartments have gone up to $5,000 in some of the key places in just downtown Atlanta. But the people who, when they find out who owns it, they are from other countries or from other parts of this country. And, they have no vested interest. And when they have a vacant apartment, they can use it for taxes. So it helps them. They don't lose. Only the citizens, the people who are renting lose. So what have you heard on this, or what can we do? I know if we lift the prohibition against it, then it'll allow mayors and city
Right.
council and county commissioners
Right.
who have talked to me. They said that, yes, if we could lift it, but it doesn't have to be a constitutional.
You have to repeal, you have
Oh,
to.
yeah,
right.
that's what I was gonna ask our legislative council. Don't we have to have a constitutional amendment to lift the prohibition against rent control? It is in the Constitution.
Right.
Okay, you wanna expound on that,
Right. I
please?
will say that in talking to several government elected officials, what they've told me, Senator James, is that they want to do something about this, but they are challenged with the ban on rent control. They want to do something because they see their local constituents struggling. And they are begging for something to happen, but they can't do anything. So they told me that if we can get it past the state, they said, we want to do something. They said, if we can get past this ban on rent control, that we immediately would do something about this issue. Because their people, their constituents are clamoring, are coming to them saying, we're living out of our cars, or we're living with family members. Or basically, some of them are have gone to, there's rental of campers. There's a lot of new phenomena going on. People living in campers. We have found people living in storage units. The secret,
Yes.
oh, you heard about that too, Senator
Yes.
James? People are living in storage units.
Because their house,
Right.
they get foreclosed on or evicted from their rental property.
Right.
And they put their things in there, and they have a key to it, and they have to go and sleep on top of their furniture. I get all choked up because I'm very sensitive to all this now because I'm talking to so many people, and I know plenty of these people, and these people have jobs. They just couldn't afford to continue
That's
to
all.
pay the rent. And some of the elected officials are saying that it's changing the demographics of their area. And so whereas, they could win for years, now it's changing the demographics, and the only people who can afford some of these apartments, because they've gouged the
Right.
rent so high that
Right.
a minimum wage person or a person who gets a middle class amount of money can no longer stay there.
Right.
And so as a result, their voters are going. And other people who don't know them or big companies are sending people here, you know, who work out of Georgia but don't live in Georgia. So
Right.
have you, I know you've talked to a lot of people, so can you say something to that?
Yes, I speak to a number of people every day, and many of them have told me that, and also elected officials, the number of elected officials, and they've told me they've seen the demographics and the citizen profile of their region change drastically, because what happens is when a person loses their address, the system, they become in limbo in the system. So a number of people are living in hotels, and that becomes a challenge for the children. So that also becomes a challenge for the population count for that school district, if it's a Title I school. So what happened, you have now school buses have actually started stopping at hotels.
I know.
There's a new phenomenon that children are being picked up at hotels. Well, the challenge with that is children need a permanent address, and sometimes that's a challenge, because if you don't have a permanent address, that's difficult even to get register your children for school.
Okay.
So this is creating a ripple effect. The elected officials are just requesting stability. One thing I hear them saying is rent stabilization. They need to be able to stabilize it. So in Georgia, the rent is rising. It's in the top 4 in the nation as far as the increased rate of increase in rent. Georgia's in the top 4. So, but also the challenge
In the
is
top 4?
Yeah, right. But wages have not spiked up at the same level. So statistically, you have a gap. You have wages plateau, but then you have rent going up. So you create a statistical and a financial gap in the haves and have-nots. And so you have a lot of people struggling. So, and a lot of elected officials want to do something if they could only have this a ban on rent control repealed.
Thank you very much. Members, we've been joined by Senator Emmanuel Jones, and you already heard from
Right.
Arthur. And let me say this, we're not against landlords, because I know my late husband and I had more than 10 houses that we rented for years and years, but we never gouged people. And we got renters in who didn't want to leave the property because we kept it up and looking good. And they, until he got sick, and then he's in heaven now, that's when I stopped being a landlord and had to take care of my husband and let that go. But I met with so many people who were landlords in the same category with me, who did take care of their property. So again, we need to, I'm thinking about also going and talking to the Georgia Real Estate Board, the different apartment associations, and see if they can't encourage people who are members of them to also stop gouging. But the gouging, we found out, is really coming from the outside companies that live outside of the country or outside of the state of Georgia. So, do you have any questions,
I
comments?
don't have a question, but a comment. This is thank you for testifying. This is the issues that I said earlier too. It's not necessarily we have a lot of good landlord in the state of Georgia. I was a landlord. I had some places. I know that during the COVID, I had some tenant didn't even pay rent. I didn't even charge him. It's okay. It's fine. But not everybody like that. Especially the problem we're having now, that out-of-state investor, they're the major problems. I don't know what we can do, but we need to work on that. The greedy investor corporation coming from outside causing the problem for us.
Now, one
State
thing,
of Georgia.
right, and thank you, Senator. One thing I will tell you, the state of Florida did do something. Some states are addressing the issue of out-of-state investors because it was becoming a phenomenon. I know for a fact Florida was inundated with foreign investors, so they began to place limitations on LLCs that are owned by foreign investors, because Florida was like #1 for several years, and the market rate was so high that poverty was skyrocketing. So the Florida state legislature took an action to limit the control of that state from people that are disconnected from the community, who don't have a concern about the day-to-day life of the children, of the families, of the businesses.
You know, also, oh,
No, sorry.
but it was to your
Marlene,
point.
we got to do something about it for sure. But the thing is, you're talking about eviction. My concern is, even if forget about eviction, the people working right now, working class folks, work in restaurants, convenience store, they can't even find a place to stay. Forget about eviction. You don't have a place to even stay. We have a shortage of people for working regular hourly jobs. You can't really afford, you know. That's my concern too. I mean, that's one thing. It's not an Atlanta issue. This is all around the state of Georgia, everywhere.
And
I've
all
seen
over the
some-
world,
yeah,
because even
and-
in Nigeria, I was talking to the people who came to our diaspora day, and they were saying that they were having the problem there because China came in and bought up everything. So now they don't even hire the Nigerian community to even work in their companies or oil, whatever they doing. They come over there. This is not my words. They say they rape the country, and that they're gouging even other people, so they have to stay outside. Families. So it's not just happening here in the United States, but so we need to look at the different foreign countries that are coming here, and hopefully this committee can look at the best thing we can do to take more control, because that's all we're trying to do. You said one word, stability. And that's what we need to do, have more stability in our rent with all of the people who are a part of us,
Yes, Senator, I
of the
agree.
state of Georgia.
I agree.
And Senator Jones, did you have a statement or question?
I do not, Madam Chair, and thank you for sharing that information with me. I apologize
Thank
for being late and tardy, but I had another event I had to attend this morning. And I've heard the comments shared by Chair Lady, and I too have property that I lease out, by the way, lots of it. And I understand these issues and concerns, and I'm always sensitive, and I believe landlords should always be sensitive to the needs of the tenants, because after all, they're the ones that we're the ones who just own it, but they're the ones who spend their time and their effort and raise their kids in these properties. So thank you for bringing this information forward.
Thank you, Senator Jones.
Thank you very much. And we have Jody Williams is going to be next. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We're going to call on you some more, I'm sure, because this was supposed to be also a HOA meeting, but time is up. You know, we're going to have to end pretty soon. So we'll try to have another meeting to talk about what we can do about HOAs. And we end next Wednesday, so it might be after the session, since this committee cannot do anything until next January anyway, legislatively. Okay. But we might have a call on you. And thank you very much, very much. I know you do it voluntarily too, although you might have some clients, but I appreciate you. Thank you. Yes, we appreciate you. Miss Jody Williams, oh, you're here. How you doing?
Hello, I'm
Hello.
fine. Hello, everyone. I'm Jody Williams, and I'm also campaigning for rent control, and it's especially needed because I know friends and relatives and even my clients whose rent is so high that they are moving. Like one situation where the person's rent went up to $1,700 and they had to move, and they're living in their car until they can find another place. You know, it's dangerous out there the way the rent is out of control. So we really need this ban lifted. So if you all can do anything to help. And I notice sometimes when you talk to some of the senators, because they have this state ban, you know, they feel like there's nothing they can do. But if we can be heard, that would be step one. If
Okay.
this could come out of the committee, that would be step one. So don't be afraid to help the people, because that's what this is all about, helping the people.
We appreciate that. Anybody have any questions? Okay, your point's well taken. We are going to continue to work on this. You know, I've been told by many of the other legislators when I tried to get them to come and work with me, I own property, I'm not going to do it. I said, this is not about you and how you handling yours. It's about the trend that has gone on all over, and especially in the state of Georgia. And so we need to look at how we can reform this rent. And
I'm also a property owner, but I have friends, clients. This is just out of control. Something must be done. My niece rent went up $400, you know. She don't have any place to go with her son, so she have no choice. So this is really needed, you know. They're even putting the elderly out of their apartments because they can no longer afford it.
right,
It's getting to the point that you're going to have the wealthy, the middle class, the poor, and the tent people, because that's what it's coming to. They're going to be a group of people, the people who live on the streets. I see people now with their children living outside on the streets. It's getting ridiculous. We must do something. What kind of state are we if we can't help the people, or if we're not even concerned about the people? And that's all
agree.
I have to say, and I really appreciate you all listening.
thank you. Are there any questions? No, we are convening these hearings because we know that it's a serious problem, and we appreciate, excuse me, don't leave. Anyway, he's with the alumni from Morris Brown. He has to leave now. He didn't make his statement. He was saying to make a statement because he and his wife don't live in, it's not just a metropolitan Atlanta area. You know, some people who live in Georgia 30 miles away, you know,
Yes, that's
are
true.
experiencing this, and their companies are coming there, big companies, corporations, and bringing thousands of jobs. And so these corporations are being forced now to use a part of their property to build some apartments
Right.
and allow the people who work for them to rent from them, because they won't be able to rent a decent place. And they're building townhouses, you know, maybe on a couple of acres of their property. And that's what he was going to talk about. And, you know, he did come to me and tell me about it. So we are going to continue to investigate and talk about it. And this is not just a meeting to talk anymore, but we're going to try to come up with solutions. Even on my Interstate Corporation Committee that I used to be the chair, but now I'm the vice chair. We had a meeting last year on this, and we were told to do something about it this year, and that's why I did the Senate Bill 125, but it didn't come out of committee.
Okay.
And it was to lift the prohibition on the rent control. So we are going to take one step at a time, and I'm so happy that we have our members who are also interested. But the members of that other committee are also interested, Senator Harbison and Senator Freddie Powell Sims. And then what they do is they come here to Atlanta for the session. So they are renting apartments, you know, short term, or either they'll lease one, and when they're out after a few months, then they rent it out. But they're having problems like you've never heard of. And you don't, I mean, even though you have been bringing this, and Miss Margie back there has been bringing this issue and so many people to us. So it's on the minds and hearts of us. And so we have to find a way to address this very important concern. This was addressed once by our Judiciary Committee when Senator Stone was here. So that might have been about 5-6 years ago that they had it. And this kept coming up, but out of the whole thing on that he passed, it wasn't addressed. So maybe we have to revisit his legislation and see what we can do, senators, to address this. Thank you very much for your comments, and I know you got to go back to work.
What was Stone? What was-
Senator Stone has retired.
Right,
Ain't
but
gone.
what was, did he present
Wasn't
a
it
bill?
rent control? It was rent control. Oh, no, it was renters' rights. Renters' rights, I believe, because you're new, you know. I'll find out, excuse me?
I beg your pardon, Chairman, if I may interject. I'm
Sure.
out of order. Around what time of, in American history as a state was that? Was that in the 70s, was it the 80s?
Oh, no, he just did a rent, he wanted to revise the rent, reform the rent.
Yes, ma'am.
And he was just 5 or 6 years ago. He just left. Senator Stone is your age, probably, yeah, or a little older. But he stayed here almost 10 years, and then he left, about 4 or 5 years ago? Yeah. So we can look back and find out, and please make sure we have a way to reach you.
Okay.
And we'll make sure that we do that.
Okay, thank
Okay.
you so much
You're
for
welcome.
listening.
I think that's going to be the end unless I see Gordon Draves coming in. Were you going to speak on rent control or HOA? You just wanted to listen. Okay, thank you. And I know we've been talking about it too.
Well,
Different
thank
people
you.
come in. So this is not an issue about just the 35th district or Donzella James, but it's all over our state.
Yes, it is.
And it's not against landlords at all.
No.
Well, since all of us are landlords too, or
Right.
have been for many years. So we just want to do what's right and make sure that we give our elected officials who are municipalities or counties have control. They want control. And we always stress local control.
Right.
All the time on our decisions that we make here. So, the demographics are changing. Some of the people are not going to get reelected because they have people who have moved in who don't know them or won't vote for them.
Right.
And they're going to get other people. And then, not to say anything's wrong with other people, but they might not have the same values as the community.
Right.
So, and then, we're going to move on from there.
Okay, I just want to thank you so much for the bill, Senate Bill 125, and I think you did a really great job, with the time frame that you had to put it together and present it. So thank you so much.
You're very welcome. I'm sorry it didn't come out of committee, but maybe another hearing or something will help to get it out of committee before it dies after next year. It's still alive after this session and next year. So we hope we can move it.
That we were supposed to sign?
Oh, I got your name on here. Margie
Okay.
knew you were coming, so she put it down. Okay, is it anyone else who wishes to speak on this issue? Dr. Faroki has come in. He's with our Morris Brown group, but your son even addressed this issue when he was the city council person over here. Tell us his name. Ahmad, yeah, Hamid Faroki. He addressed this and they tried to change it, but then that's when they came to me and others and said, you got to lift the prohibition in order for us to take control. So, does any of the lobbyists, anybody, oh, they gone, most of them gone now. Did they want to say anything? No? Okay. Hearing none, thank you everyone for coming, and we will adjourn officially now. Thank you very much.